Hello Raven users, and welcome to the Raven setup tutorial for Mac. Today, we're going to go over registering, licensing, and setting up the Raven touchscreen on Mac. Also today, we'll be doing this on a brand new MacBook Air with an M1 chip. So first thing we'll want to do is take our passcode that came in the box and go to myslateaudio.com. And here, if you don't have a Slate Audio account, just sign up for one here. Type in your email address, and then hit next step. Now type in your name, your country, zip code, and complete registration. Now we'll need to verify our email address. Click over to your email, and now we should see an account verification email. Click on here and go hit verify your account. Verify. And now we're ready to log in. So type in your email address, password, and log in. Here we'll check our OS, Mac, and DAW. We're going to be using a couple of these. Now we're ready to register our passcode. So we will hit Add Products, type in the passcode, and now we'll choose the DAW we want to register. So today, let's set it up for Ableton. We'll hit Submit. Successfully added to your account. Please link your iLok account to use this product. Look for the orange notification. So now we see this orange notification where we'll need to link our iLok account. So we'll click here, and we will link our iLok account. If users do not have an iLok account, just go to ilok.com and create a free account. Choose your iLok ID here, name, email, re-enter the email, select your password, check on all the terms and conditions, and now our profile is set up. Then we can go to our email. Let's verify our email address. We will see here our Raven registration has gone through, and here we can even download the Mac and the Windows installer. Let's go ahead and get the Mac installer downloading. Now we'll go back and get our iLok account, verify the email, type in your iLok ID, sign in, and now we'll need to download the iLok License Manager. So go here, download the iLok License Manager, and then go ahead and install that. Now we'll need to link our iLok ID so we can get our license. So we'll go into our account here, we'll type in our iLok ID that we just set up, verify, and our iLok has been successfully linked. Please note, if you are using an iLok ID with a different email address than you're logged into your Slate account with, you will be sent a verification code to verify that the iLok is going to go into the correct account. So now that we've linked our iLok ID and downloaded the iLok License Manager and software, we will install that and then open the iLok License Manager. Sign in. And now that we're signed into our account, we will activate the iLok license. Right-click it and choose Activate. Choose your location For now, we'll do it to the machine ID. We'll click Activate. And I always prefer to just hit Don't Show Again so that it doesn't ask us every time we need to activate an iLok license. After that's done, I also check Don't Show Again so that we don't get a prompt every time we activate a license, and hit OK. Now, our Raven license is active, and we've downloaded the software here. Next thing we'll want to do is plug in the Raven HDMI and USB cable into the MacBook. However, this MacBook Air doesn't have a HDMI or USB port, so we will be using an HDMI adapter or an Apple multi-port adapter to hook these up. So take the HDMI, plug it into the HDMI port, take the USB, plug it into the USB port, take the power supply from your computer and plug it into the power here. Now, plug in the adapter. Now that it's plugged in, we can see we have both displays working. Now to check these, we will go into System Preferences, Displays, and now under Arrangement, you see we have the MacBook screen and the Raven screen. Now that we have the display plugged in, let's talk about using multiple displays on Mac. So, to the left, here is the MacBook. To the right, here is the Raven display. Now, users want to match this arrangement with the physical display in the studio. So if your MacBook Pro is going to be below the Raven, drag it down here. If your other screen is above the Raven, drag it up here. Or if it's to the right of the Raven, drag it here. For me, my MacBook's on the left, so I'm going to have this on the left and the Raven on the right. Now, another very useful feature in the Mac is you can choose what display is the main display by just taking this menu bar here and dragging it to the main display. I prefer to always have the Raven be the main display so that windows show up on the Raven screen by default, but for now, we will keep the MacBook the main display. So now when using multiple displays, Mac also has a thing called desktops. So hit F3 and you'll see we're using desktop 1. Hit this plus button to create another desktop. Now the Raven software and DAW should always be on desktop 1, but it can be really easy to switch between the DAW and your web browser by setting your web browser to desktop 2. The other feature that becomes unlocked when you set up these desktops is the ability to choose what application shows up on what display. So for instance, if I want Chrome to show up on the second display, I just right-click the Chrome icon from the dock, and under Options, I say Desktop on Display 2. So now when I open Chrome, it's going to automatically open up on Display 2. Now for the DAW, such as Pro Tools and the Raven software, this should always be set to None. Since the Raven is dynamic, we don't want Apple to lock it to a certain display. But for any applications that aren't the DAW or the Raven software, users can choose what desktop to open that up on. Now let's go over a couple more system preferences. So we have our displays here. Users can also choose to mirror these displays by hitting the mirroring button here. However, I find it's nice to be able to have some windows on the Raven and some windows on the MacBook, so we are not going to mirror. Now, an important thing to set up here is your energy savings. So click on the battery icon here, and under battery, we want it to never turn off the displays. We don't want it to dim, and we don't want it to go to sleep. So we'll set these all to never. Now, while we're working, our computer's not going to go to sleep on us and we won't lose our displays. Now, a very important system preferences to turn on is your keyboard shortcuts. So in here, if you see Mission Control, Control Up, this is the same key command that Pro Tools uses to resize tracks. So we're going to turn that off. Application Windows also uses a key command. We're going to turn that off. And under Spotlight, Command Spacebar opens Spotlight. However, Command Spacebar in Pro Tools also starts recording. So we will want to turn these off so they don't conflict. Now for me, I'm going to adjust some trackpad settings. I prefer to scroll normally, where I scroll down, it goes down, up, it goes up. You can change that direction in here. And then under point and click, I don't like this force click haptic feedback, so I decided to turn that off as well. This way, when I press on something, it doesn't bring up the Get Info menu. Now another setting is your dock and menu bar. Now, you see this dock down here is taking up a lot of our screen real estate. So we always recommend having automatically hide and show the dock checked on. This way you get full screen windows, and if you need to open the dock, you just drag the mouse down. Now, if users are not going to set the Raven to the main display, then it is okay to have the dock showing on the non-Raven display. But if you're going to be using the Raven as the main display in system preferences, check this to automatically hide and show. So now that we've set up our system preferences, we're ready to install the software. So go to your Downloads tab and double-click the Raven installer. The Raven is going to install the Raven software, the UPDD touch driver, and vControl Pro. Plus, the Raven will also install some default templates for the DAWs. Now that the Raven installer is done, we'll close that, keep that, and we'll install vControl Pro. Type in your password. This is going to install vControl Pro, which is the bridge between the DAW and the Raven faders. Now that that's done, we'll install the UPDD touch driver. Now this is the most important part of the Raven screen, as everybody wants their touch screen to work. So go ahead and hit continue, type in your password. Okay. So after the installation of UPDD, we've been prompted with a bunch of security windows. Now this is very important to pay attention to, is Apple have really taken security to the next level, and all of the applications we're going to be running are going to require some advanced security settings. So to do this, go to System and Privacy. And here, System Software for Application UPDD System Extension was blocked from being loaded. This is the most important step of the Raven, is if you do not click Allow here, your touchscreen will not work. So type in your password and hit Allow. If the Allow button doesn't show up, users may need to restart, reinstall the UPDD commander, as this Allow is very important. It's also possible, if this Allow doesn't show up, that there's another application that is blocked. And to do this, you should probably file a support ticket. So click Allow, which will allow the touch driver access. Then, now that we've allowed the touch driver, you'll see we're getting prompted for accessibility. So we'll open System Preferences, and in here is the Accessibility tab. Now every application we're going to use is going to need accessibility. So here we'll check on UPDD and the UPDD commander. We'll hit OK about these system extensions and start using the commander. And now that we've added these, if we touch the screen, you'll see touch is working. However, touch is working on my main display, and since the Raven's my secondary display, the mouse is showing up on the main display. But UPDD have prompted us to run Identify. So to do this, just click this hand icon here, hit Identify, And on our main screen, we'll hit next that this is not a touch screen. And on the Raven, we'll push and hold the blue cross. And now the touch is showing up on the Raven display. Now that we're in this accessibility window, we're going to add a bunch more applications. So hit the plus button here, go into your applications folder. Let's add the DAW, Ableton. Let's add Automator. I'll add Cubase. I'll add Digital Performer. I want our iLok License Manager to also have access in here. I'm going to go to the Raven software. So the Raven now has access here. And I'm also going to go to vControl Pro. Let vControl Pro have access. And finally, in the utilities area, we are going to give Terminal access. So now all of these apps have more privileges and will not be blocked by the system. So now that we've set up all of our security and privacy settings, we're ready to check out the touch driver. So this little hand icon in the menu bar here, this is our touch driver. The console will go over the display that's detected, and in here we can test the screen. So click the Test app, and now we can test that we can draw really fast and with multi-touch. I'll close the Test app, and in here we can click the Identify icon here. We can do a diagnostic report. If there's any issues, just click Diagnostics, and we can set our calibration for how many points we want. And we can go ahead and calibrate. Push and hold on the blue cross. And now the screen is calibrated. I'll exit out of here. And in here we can also go to the About. This will show us the version and who it's registered to. This other hand icon here, this is UPDD Commander, which handles all of your gestures. So go to the Settings tab. And here you can see all the applications that come pre-installed with different gestures. So users will notice in Google Chrome, we've assigned all these custom gestures in Chrome. 2-finger rotate will refresh. 2-finger rotate left will minimize. 3-finger swipe will go back and forward. So let's open up Chrome. We'll try some of these gestures. So I can make a new tab with a 4-finger splay, close the tab with a 4-finger pinch, make a new window, 4-finger splay. So here we can highlight with a drag, 3-finger splay is going to copy, make a new tab, 3-finger pinch is going to paste, 5-finger tap is going to hit enter. And then we can minimize by rotate left, 2-finger double tap, to bring up our app switcher. Let me bring this back open. Close the tab, 4-finger pinch, or refresh the page with a 2-finger rotate right. And we can hide the whole app by just swiping from the top of the screen down. So we can see Finder also has some gestures in here. 2-finger tap will open up this app switcher. 1-finger swipe from the right of the screen will open up our mission control. 1-finger swipe up, you see opens up all of our application settings. And a 4-finger rotate to the right is going to open up Safari. Now that Safari's open, I'll just drag it over to this window. Now that we've set up our displays correctly, I can simply drag a window from here over to this window, and now it's on the Raven. I can switch between my tabs with a 4-finger drag like this, back, forward, make a new tab, 4-finger splay, click on Apple here, go click around, make sure touch is working, and if I want to go back in the history, I just do a 3-finger swipe to the left, takes me back in history, and a 3-finger swipe to the right takes me forward. Now you'll have noticed UPDD has opened up an evaluation prompt. This is because we haven't opened the Raven software yet, so UPDD has not been licensed. So we'll do a couple more gestures. I'll run out those 20 touches that I have remaining, and I'll show you how to register the software. There we go. So now we've reached the 100 touch limit. Reboot to continue. UPDD is running in demo mode right now because we have not opened the Raven software. We don't need a restart. All we have to do is open the Raven application. So go into your applications folder, and in the Raven, just open this application. When you open Raven, it will also open vControl Pro. So we will allow vControl Pro system event access here. We'll hit OK. And now you see vControl Pro is added in here. And now that we've opened the Raven, our touch driver is back and active. So now that we've opened up the Raven software and we've licensed the touch driver, users will also notice a new app in here called vControl Pro. If you go to About vControl Pro, you will see this version is not licensed. But this is okay, as you do not need a license to use vControl Pro with Raven. So if users go to Activate License, you will get an error, but this is okay. We do not need a license for vControl Pro, as a Raven is grandfathered in. Now that we have vControl Pro open, now we could launch the DAW and set up all the DAW prefs for vControl Pro. So first, let's open Ableton Live. We can click Allow to allow vControl Pro notifications. And now in Ableton, let's set up our preferences. The first preference we'll want is to set up pen tablet mode. If this is not checked on, touch will be very fast. So let me show you. If I try to move these sends, you see it moves really fast. But if we open up our preferences and we check on pen tablet mode, now when we move the sends, it responds perfectly with touch. And the faders as well, and the pans. The other preference to set up is going to be our MIDI. So in here, go to Mackie Control, and make the input vControl Pro and the output vControl Pro. Then we'll go down, and this next port is going to be Mackie Control XT. This will be vControl port 2, vControl port 2, and Mackie Control XT again, vControl XT3, vControl XT3. We do not need XT4 or the vPans. We just need 3 ports of vControl. Each port comes with 8 faders, so 3 times 8 will be 24 faders, which will show on the screen at one time, and if we need to see the next 24, just bank over and the faders will show. So now Ableton is set up for the Raven. Next, and we can go set up Cubase for the Raven. Fire open Cubase. And you'll see in Cubase, Raven has installed a little default template to check out here. So we'll start from there. And now, you'll see these workspaces have been set up. These were installed by the Raven, and these are workspaces used to align with the multiple displays. So now first we'll go set up the controllers. So go into Studio Setup, and under MIDI, we will add a device, Raven. Now, vControl Pro, Raven, and Cubase are connected. And you see we get this notification here. The next preference is going to be the key commands. So in Edit, Key Commands, click the Presets tab and load the Raven Steinberg keys. Now this will import all the custom key commands that have been set up for the Raven in the batch commands. Now finally, we'll want to check on our preferences here, and we can just load up the Raven Cubase preferences. And what these will do is make sure that we have the correct color scheme and we have these correct sync selection in Project Mix Console. So you see they're checked on by default, but when we go select the Raven Cubase preferences, we've unchecked those. Hit apply, hit OK, and now Raven and Cubase are set up. Now I want to customize these workspaces. So workspace 1, I want the project window to be on the Raven. So simply just drag the project window to the Raven, and now I'm going to open up the Mix Console, and I want the Mix Console to show on the MacBook Air. Now I want to maximize this window. So you see here, if I click this green, it'll maximize, but we want to leave a little space at the bottoms for the Raven toolbars. So now that I have my windows in the correct location, I'm going to update the workspace, and now I'm going to switch to my Mix workspace, where I want the mixer to show up on the Raven. So just drag it to the Raven screen. My project window's here. I will resize it, and I will update the workspace. Workspace, project. Now we've utilized both our displays. So now that we've set up Cubase, let's go set up Pro Tools. So we'll fire open Pro Tools. We'll make a new session. And now we will need to go into our MIDI input devices, check on V-Control here, just V-Control XD2, XD3. We don't need V-Control XD4. Then we will go into our peripherals, MIDI controllers, do 3 banks of Huey. We're going to leave the 4th bank empty, as that would give us 32 tracks, and also Pro Tools has some bugs with that 4th bank. In the first column, we set V-Control. The second column, V-Control XT2. Third column, V-Control XT3. And be sure to leave the 4th bank blank, as we do not need that. Now another great preference in Pro Tools is the keyboard focus. So you can see if we do key command P and semicolon, it does not move down the tracks like it should. So we need to turn on keyboard focus here. Now, see, we can move between the tracks. But these tracks don't select when we move down or up. This is because we don't have link, timeline, and edit selection on. So be sure to check on this option here. Now when we move between tracks, you see the tracks get selected. Now the final preference in Pro Tools is to go to Preferences, Mixing, and turn on the Always Fill Channel Strips when banking. This way when you bank, Pro Tools will follow. Also, I recommend setting up a default EQ and dynamics for easy access to the plugins. And finally, we want to change our color preferences. So in here, we don't want our colors to be gray like this. So we will turn up the track saturation. You see now we get these great blue and nice colors here. Now we'll also want to set up our Pro Tools windows for our little dual setup here. So for me, I'm going to get this mix window. I'm going to drag it over to my Raven screen, and I'm going to hit this little green icon. Now in Pro Tools, you see if you click this green icon, it says enter full screen mode. So if you just click it regularly, you see it's going to move your menu bar and it's going to overlap everything. So what we want to do is go back to the normal mode, and when you hover over the green, if you hold down Option, you see it turns from zoom, from enter full screen to zoom. So we want zoom. This way, it fills up the whole screen. And I'll do the same thing on the mix console here. Now we may want to also change a couple more settings here. I'm going to hide the clips list. I'm going to show an extra set of inserts on the mixer. I'm going to save this, but also I want to save this window layout. So I'm going to do a new window configuration, edit and mix, 2 displays. Now if my screens get messed up and I want to get back home, I just go into my window configurations, select these two, the screens pop up where they're supposed to. I want to go over one more important setting that we went over previously, and this was the main display. So currently, the MacBook is the main display and the Raven is a secondary display. But I really want the Raven to be the main display so that all my windows pop up on here. What I mean is when I go to create a new track in Pro Tools, you see how it pops up on the MacBook? I want it to pop up on my Raven. Same thing if I open up an audio suite. Everything's going to default to the main display here, and I want it to open up on my touchscreen so I can utilize touch. To do this, we're going to change our main displays. So I'm going to go into System Preferences. I'm going to drag the menu bar over to the Raven. Now the Raven is the main display. But you see when I touch the Raven screen, it's reacting on the MacBook. This is because whenever you change your display configuration, you will need to re-identify the touchscreen. So click the hand icon, hit Identify, push and hold on the touchscreen, and hit Next on the non-touch screen.